You've spent your entire life trying to be liked. Being agreeable. Being nice. Making sure everyone around you feels comfortable, even when it costs you your dignity, and what has it gotten you? Let me guess, people take you for granted. They dismiss your opinions. They interrupt you in meetings. They cancel plans last minute. They ask for favors but disappear when you need something. That you're surrounded by people, but you have no power. You're well liked, but not respected. And deep down, you know the difference. Florence, 1513. A political advisor named Niccolò Machiavelli watched something that would change how he understood human nature forever. A beloved prince, kind, generous, loved by all his subjects, was overthrown in a single night by his own council. The people mourned. But nobody fought for him. Nobody defended him. Nobody risked anything to save him. Why? Because love without respect is powerless. Meanwhile, another ruler, feared, harsh, uncompromising, ruled for decades with absolute authority. People didn't love him. But they respected him. They obeyed him. They never betrayed him, and in that moment, Machiavelli understood a truth so dark, so uncomfortable, that it's been whispered about for 500 years. Being liked is a weakness. Being respected is power. Most people never learn this. They spend their entire lives optimizing for likability, being friendly, being agreeable, being non-threatening, and they wonder why they have no influence. Why their opinions don't matter. Why people walk all over them. Here's what nobody tells you: likability and respect operate on completely different psychological principles. And they're often mutually exclusive. When you try to be liked, you make yourself small. You avoid conflict. You defer to others. You prioritize their comfort over your power. But when you command respect, you make yourself unavoidable. You create boundaries. You enforce consequences. You prioritize your power over their comfort. And here's the paradox that will blow your mind: when you stop trying to be liked and start commanding respect, people actually like you more. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to make this shift. How to unlock what Machiavelli called the dark power of respect, a force so potent that it transforms every relationship, every interaction, every dynamic in your life. This isn't about being cruel. This isn't about being an asshole. This is about understanding the psychology of power and using it to command the respect you deserve, because right now, you're playing the wrong game. You're optimizing for the wrong metric. And it's costing you everything. That if you're ready to stop being the nice guy who finishes last, if you're ready to stop seeking approval and start commanding authority, if you're ready to unlock the same dark power that Machiavelli taught to princes, then you're in exactly the right place. This is Deep Psyche Coded, where we decode the dark psychology that the powerful use, so you can master it instead of being controlled by it. Hit subscribe right now. Turn on notifications. Because what I'm about to reveal will permanently change how you see respect, power, and human nature. Let's begin. The problem, the trap of likability. Here's the story you've been sold your entire life. Be nice. Be kind. Be likable. If people like you, doors will open. Opportunities will come. Success will follow. It's the advice from your parents, your teachers, every self-help book, every motivational speaker. And it's catastrophically wrong, because what they don't tell you is this: the more you optimize for likability, the less respect you command. And without respect, likability is worthless. Think about it. You know plenty of nice people who everyone likes. They're friendly. They're helpful. They're always there when you need them, but do you respect them? Do you value their time? Do you follow their advice? Do you see them as powerful? Or do you just like them? The way you like a pleasant coworker, a reliable coffee shop, background music. This is what I call the likability trap. And you're in it right now. You've been conditioned to believe that being liked is the path to success. So you say yes when you want to say no. Laugh at jokes that aren't funny. Agree with opinions you don't hold. Avoid conflict at all costs. Make yourself small so others feel big. Apologize for things that aren't your fault. Seek validation from people who don't matter. And with every single one of these behaviors, you're trading respect for likability. Power for pleasantness. Authority for acceptance. Let me show you the math. Likability without respect equals being used. You're the person people call when they need something. But never the person they consult when making important decisions. You're invited to things because you're nice to have around. But you're never the center of attention. Never the one people defer to. You have a lot of friends. But when you need something, suddenly everyone's busy. Because here's the brutal truth, people will take from someone they like if that person doesn't command respect. Now let me show you the other equation. Respect without likability equals power. Think about the people in your life who command respect. Your boss. That colleague who everyone defers to. That friend whose word is law in your social circle. Are they the nicest people? Are they the most agreeable? Are they always trying to make everyone comfortable? No. They have boundaries. They say no. They don't explain themselves. They create slight discomfort because they refuse to compromise their standards. People might not like them in the warm, fuzzy sense. But people respect them. Value them. Listen to them. Follow them. Machiavelli watched this dynamic play out in the most extreme ways possible. He saw kind rulers get betrayed. Generous lords get overthrown. Merciful princes get assassinated. And he wrote in The Prince, since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved. Now, most people read that and think Machiavelli was a monster advocating for tyranny. But that's not what he meant. What he meant was this. Love, likability, without respect is fragile. It disappears the moment it's inconvenient. But respect, even respect tinged with fear, is durable. It persists even when times are hard. Let me give you a modern example. There are two managers in a company. Manager A is beloved. Always nice, never demanding, gives everyone second chances, rarely enforces deadlines. Manager B is respected but not warm. Clear expectations, firm boundaries, holds people accountable, no excuses. When layoffs come, who do you think gets cut? Manager A. Every time, because the executives respect Manager B. They see Manager B as essential. They see Manager A as nice to have around. Likability got Manager A exactly nowhere when it mattered. Now here's where this gets really dark. And really important. The reason most people optimize for likability is fear. You're afraid that if you're not likable, people will reject you. You'll be alone. You'll be seen as difficult, aggressive, or mean. You'll lose relationships. You'll be the villain. So you make yourself likable. You prioritize other people's comfort. You shrink yourself. And in doing so, you give away all your power. Because here's what Machiavelli understood that you don't. The people who command respect aren't trying to be liked. They're willing to be disliked in service of something more important, their boundaries, their values, their power, and ironically, paradoxically, this is what makes them actually valuable. Actually worth respecting. Actually magnetic. People are drawn to those who respect themselves enough to demand respect from others. And that's exactly what you're about to learn to do. The psychology, why respect works. Before I show you how to command respect, you need to understand the psychology behind why respect is more powerful than likability. This isn't opinion. This is neuroscience, evolutionary psychology, and 500 years of Machiavellian observation. Let me introduce you to 3 psychological principles that explain why respect commands power in ways that likability never can. Principle number 1. Status detection. Your brain is constantly scanning for status hierarchies. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism. In ancient times, aligning with high-status individuals meant better resources, better protection, better survival odds. So your brain evolved to detect status and align accordingly. But here's the key, your brain detects status through respect signals, not likability signals. When someone commands respect through their behavior, their boundaries, their unwillingness to compromise, your brain registers them as high status. When someone is overly likable, agreeable, accommodating, seeking approval, your brain registers them as low status. You can't logic your way out of this. It's hardwired. This is why the nice guy who tries so hard to be liked is perceived as low value. Not because people consciously think this person is low value, but because their brain automatically categorizes excessive likability as a low status signal. Meanwhile, the person who sets boundaries, says no, and doesn't seek approval, their brain registers them as high status, someone to respect, listen to, follow. This is why Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see but few can understand. Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." Translation: people judge you by visible signals of status, respect behaviors, not by your internal qualities, how nice you actually are. Principle number 2, scarcity and value. Economics 101, things that are scarce are valuable. Things that are abundant are cheap. When you're always available, always agreeable, always saying yes, you're abundant. You're cheap. You have no scarcity value. But when you have boundaries, when you say no, when your time and energy are protected, you're scarce. You're valuable. You command premium treatment. This is why the person who's always free when you call gets less respect than the person who's busy and has to see if they can make time. It's not fair. It's not nice. But it's true. Scarcity creates value. Value creates respect. Respect creates power. And here's the dark part that nobody talks about. When you make yourself too available, too agreeable, too easy, people unconsciously lose respect for you. Not because they're bad people, but because their brain is running the calculation: if this person has no boundaries, no standards, no self-respect, why should I respect them? You teach people how to treat you. And when you teach them that your time is unlimited, your energy is free, and your boundaries are negotiable, you've taught them that you're low value. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He wrote, "For the great majority of mankind are satisfied with appearances, as though they were realities. If you appear infinitely available, you appear valueless. And people treat you accordingly." Principle number 3, the Respect-Reciprocity Loop. Here's where it gets really interesting. When you respect yourself, when you have boundaries, standards, consequences, other people instinctively reciprocate that respect. But when you don't respect yourself, when you tolerate disrespect, accept poor treatment, have no boundaries, other people mirror that back to you. This is called the Respect-Reciprocity Loop. And it's either a virtuous cycle or a vicious cycle. Virtuous cycle: you respect yourself, you set boundaries, others respect you, you feel valued, you respect yourself more, cycle continues upward. Vicious cycle: you don't respect yourself, you accept poor treatment, others disrespect you, you feel worthless, you respect yourself less, cycle continues downward. Most people are stuck in the vicious cycle. And they don't understand why. They think, if I'm just nicer, more understanding, more accommodating, eventually people will treat me better. But it doesn't work that way. The more you tolerate, the more you'll be tested. The more you accept, the worse the treatment becomes. Because you're signaling to everyone around you, I don't respect myself enough to demand better. So you don't need to either. This is why Machiavelli's most controversial advice actually makes perfect psychological sense. One who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. If you don't respect yourself enough to enforce consequences, people will keep disrespecting you. Not because they're evil, but because you've shown them they can. Let me show you how this plays out in real life. Scenario 1, the likable approach: someone cancels on you last minute. You say, "No worries. Maybe next time." What you think this communicates, I'm understanding and flexible. What it actually communicates, my time has no value. You can disrespect it without consequence. Result, they'll cancel again. And again. Because you've taught them there's no cost. Scenario 2, the respect approach. Someone cancels on you last minute. You say nothing. You simply become less available to them. What this communicates, my time has value. Disrespecting it has consequences. Result, they notice your absence. They realize they might lose access to you. They become more respectful. Notice the difference. One approach seeks to be liked. The other commands respect. One is concerned with how the other person feels. The other is concerned with enforcing standards. One is abundant and valueless. The other is scarce and valuable. And here's the paradox. The person who stops trying to be liked and starts commanding respect ends up being more valued, more sought after, and yes, actually more liked, than the person who tries to be likable. Because people don't actually like doormats. They use them. But they don't respect them. And without respect, likability means nothing. Now let me show you exactly how to make this shift. How to stop optimizing for likability and start commanding respect. The solution, the dark power of respect. Alright. You understand the problem. You understand the psychology. Now let's talk about the solution. How do you stop being the likable person everyone takes advantage of and become the respected person everyone values? Machiavelli gave us the framework 500 years ago. I'm going to show you how to apply it today. This is the dark power of respect, a three-phase system for commanding respect in every area of your life. Warning, this will feel uncomfortable. It will feel selfish. It will feel mean. That's your likability programming fighting back. Ignore it. Phase 1, the boundary architecture. First, you need to build the structure that commands respect. And that structure is made of boundaries. Not suggestions. Not preferences. Boundaries. Non-negotiable lines that, when crossed, trigger immediate consequences. Here's how to architect them. Step 1, identify your non-negotiables. What behaviors will you absolutely not tolerate anymore? Being cancelled on last minute. Being interrupted or talked over. Having your time wasted. Being disrespected in public. Having your boundaries tested. Write them down. Be specific. These are your laws now. Scene 25 hours 16 minutes and 30 seconds to 17:15. Step 2, eliminate explanations. Here's where most people mess up, they explain their boundaries. I can't make it because I have this thing and I'm really sorry but. Stop. When you explain, you're asking for permission. You're seeking approval. You're making your boundary negotiable. Respected people don't explain. They state, I'm not available that day. That doesn't work for me. I don't do that. No explanation. No apology. No negotiation. Machiavelli wrote, never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. Applied here, don't force people to respect your boundaries through argument. Deceive them into respecting your boundaries by making them appear non-negotiable. Step 3, enforce consequences immediately. This is the phase where you separate people who truly respect you from people who just liked having access to you. When someone crosses a boundary, you don't warn them. You don't discuss it. You enforce a consequence. What kind of consequences? Withdrawal of access, they become less priority. You're suddenly busy more often. Decreased investment, less energy, less enthusiasm, less availability. Social consequences, others notice the shift. Word spreads. You don't announce this. You don't explain it. You just implement it. And the people who truly value you, they'll notice. They'll adjust. They'll respect the boundary. The people who don't. They'll complain that you've changed or you're being difficult. Perfect. They've identified themselves as people who valued your likability, not your worth. Phase 2, the value demonstration. Once you have boundaries, you need to demonstrate your value in ways that command respect. This isn't about bragging or showing off. It's about strategic demonstration of competence, capability, and outcome. Here's the framework. Demonstrate competence through results, not words. Respected people don't talk about what they're going to do. They do it, then let results speak. Don't announce your plans. Don't seek validation for your ideas. Don't ask for permission. Do the thing. Get the result. Let people discover your competence through evidence, not through your pitch. Create scarcity through selective availability. Remember, you've been too available. Time to recalibrate. Don't respond to messages immediately. Let time pass. Show your time is valuable. Be selective about commitments. Say no more than yes. Make people work slightly harder to access you. This isn't playing games. This is accurate pricing. Your time is valuable. Act like it. Demonstrate standards through rejection. What you reject is as important as what you accept. When you reject mediocrity, poor treatment, time wasting, disrespect, publicly, decisively, you demonstrate standards. And people with standards command respect. Machiavelli understood this. Wise men say, and not without reason, that whoever wishes to foresee the future must consult the past. Applied here, people will treat you in the future based on what you accepted in the past. Show them through rejection what you no longer accept. Phase 3, the respect consolidation. Once you've built boundaries and demonstrated value, the final phase is consolidating respect into permanent power dynamics. This is where you shift from person trying to command respect to person who naturally commands respect. Principle 1, make respect the default. Every interaction should reinforce your boundaries and value. People address you with respect. Reciprocate. People test your boundaries. Immediate consequence. People bring value to you. Acknowledge it. People waste your time. Withdraw access. You're training everyone around you about how relationships with you work. Be consistent. Principle 2, create public demonstrations. Respect needs to be visible to spread. When you enforce a boundary, when you walk away from disrespect, when you say no to something everyone else would say yes to, do it publicly enough that others notice. Not for attention. For education. You're teaching everyone in your circle, this is how I operate. This is my standard. Respect it or lose access. And watch how fast people adjust their behavior. Principle 3, never apologize for demanding respect. The final trap, after you start commanding respect, your old likability programming will try to make you feel guilty. Am I being too harsh? Too difficult? Too demanding? No. You're being appropriately valuable. Machiavelli's final wisdom. Where the willingness is great, the difficulties cannot be great. If someone truly values you, respecting your boundaries won't be difficult. If they complain it's difficult, they never really valued you anyway. Here's what happens when you master these 3 phases. People stop taking you for granted. Your opinions suddenly matter in meetings. People think twice before disrespecting you. You get offered opportunities without asking. Your time becomes valuable to others. People chase your attention instead of the reverse. Not because you're being mean. Not because you're being manipulative. But because you've stopped optimizing for likability and started commanding respect. And respect, real respect, is the foundation of all power. The transformation and warning. Now let me tell you what's going to happen when you actually implement this. Because understanding the dark power of respect intellectually is one thing. Actually wielding it is another. First, you're going to lose people, not everyone. But some people. The ones who valued your likability but never respected you. The friend who only calls when they need something. They'll disappear when you're suddenly busy. The colleague who always dumped work on you. They'll complain when you start saying no. The family member who treated you like the emotional support animal. They'll guilt-trip you when you set boundaries. Let them go, because here's what most people don't understand. You didn't lose relationships. You exposed relationships that were never real. A relationship built on your likability and their convenience isn't a relationship. It's exploitation dressed up as friendship. When you start commanding respect, these fake relationships dissolve. And that's not a loss. That's a liberation. Machiavelli saw this happen to princes all the time. He wrote, "Men are so simple, and so subject to present necessities, that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived." You've been allowing yourself to be deceived. The people who liked you were deceiving you about the nature of your relationship. And you were deceiving yourself that likability equals value. Time to stop. Second, you're going to feel uncomfortable. For the first weeks, maybe months, of commanding respect instead of seeking likability, you're going to feel like an asshole. You're going to second-guess every boundary. Question every consequence. Worry that you're being too much. That's normal. That's your old programming dying. Push through it, because on the other side of that discomfort is something you've never experienced before: genuine self-respect. When you stop compromising yourself for likability, when you enforce your boundaries without apology, when you demonstrate your value without seeking validation, you start actually respecting yourself. And that internal shift. That's when the external world starts respecting you too. Third, and this is the paradox, people will actually like you more. I know. It sounds backwards. But it's true. When you stop trying to be liked and start commanding respect, people perceive you as more valuable, more interesting, more worth being around. Because respected people are rare. Everyone's trying to be liked. Almost nobody is willing to risk being disliked to command respect. So when you do, you stand out. You become magnetic. Not to everyone, but to the right people. The people worth having in your life. The people who respect themselves enough to recognize and appreciate someone else who does the same. Let me give you a real example. I know a guy who spent years being the nice friend in his social circle. Always available. Always accommodating. Everyone liked him. But he had no influence. No one listened to his suggestions. No one valued his time. He was pleasant background noise. Then he implemented exactly what I've taught you today. Boundaries. Consequences. Value demonstration. Selective availability. Within 3 months, his entire social dynamic shifted. People started asking his opinion. Respecting his time. Valuing his presence. Did he lose some friends? Yes. The ones who only valued his availability. But the real friends, the ones who actually respected him, their relationships deepened. Because now it was based on mutual respect, not one-sided accommodation. So here's my warning to you. Once you unlock the dark power of respect, you can't go back. Once you experience what it's like to have people truly value you instead of just like you. Once you feel the power of commanding respect instead of seeking approval. Once you see how different life is when you enforce boundaries instead of being a doormat. You won't be able to go back to being the nice guy even if you wanted to. Because you'll have tasted something more powerful than likability. You'll have tasted respect. And respect is addictive. In the best way possible. Let me bring this home. 500 years ago, Machiavelli watched princes rise and fall based on one principle. Those who commanded respect kept power. Those who sought to be loved lost everything. The beloved prince was overthrown because when times got hard, love evaporated. People stopped caring. Nobody fought for him. The respected prince, even the feared prince, maintained power. Because respect persists when likability fails. Fear of consequence outlasts warm feelings. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to teach cruelty. He wrote it to teach reality. And the reality is, in the game of power, respect beats likability every single time. You have a choice right now. You can go back to seeking likability. Being the nice person. Accommodating everyone. Making yourself small so others feel big. And you can continue being taken for granted, walked over, dismissed, and undervalued. Or, you can implement what you learned today. Build your boundary architecture. Eliminate explanations. Enforce consequences. Demonstrate value through results. Create scarcity through selective availability. Consolidate respect into permanent power dynamics. And watch as your entire life transforms. As people start treating you differently. As opportunities open up. As your word carries weight. As your presence commands attention, not because you're being cruel. But because you finally respect yourself enough to demand respect from others. Machiavelli's final lesson from the prince. A prince ought to have no other aim or thought, nor select anything else for his study, than war and its rules and discipline, for this is the sole art that belongs to him who rules. Applied to you, your sole focus should be mastering respect. Not likability. Not being nice. Respect. Because respect is the art of those who rule their own lives instead of being ruled by others' opinions. This is deep psyche coded. We don't teach you how to be liked. We teach you how to be respected. If this resonated with you, if you felt the truth of respect over likability, then subscribe right now. Turn on all notifications. Because we're going to continue breaking down the dark psychology of power, respect, and human nature. The stuff that works but nobody wants to admit. Stop trying to be liked. Start commanding respect. The dark power is yours. Use it.